Congo Barra and Gouajan were Calypsonians of the first ever in Trinidad. But they weren't called Calypsonians, they were called Chantuels. Those days that the French planters, the French masters lived in this country and brought to Trinidad the rhythmic and most enticing form of French culture in the masquerade. The masquerade was so well done that the slaves weren't allowed. But at a certain point, the slaves came in. And that's when they discovered that the African slaves were mimicking the French masters and using a language that was a combination of African and French called patois. Gouajan was a huge, thick, black, strong slave who was humorous and sang lots of ditties mimicking the French masters. They didn't get annoyed. In fact, they were amused and asked him to sing about other French masters. So pre-carnival festivities were done and they were inviting Gouajan to sing about their neighbors and their habits. And so Calypso began in double antone, making suggestive remarks about the people and the masters, and at the same time saying it in French patois and later in English and patois. They realized, the French masters, that Gouajan, who were making demands in the interests of a better treatment for the slaves. And he was put in jail in the royal jail that is now 103 Frederick Street. All the prisoners of the jail light a light and saying, "Prisonnier leve, mettez lime by Congo Barra." And if you want to hear the song, "Prisonnier leve, mettez lime by Congo Barra, mettez lime by Congo Barra, judge and jury go charge him for murder. Prisonnier leve, mettez lime by Congo Barra." And that was the voice of not only the prisoners, but the Africans who inhabited the lands when they were asking for mercy. But Congo Barra was not afraid. He defended the slaves and he died for them right here in the royal jail.
Calypso in Trinidad is music that has emerged of very complex processes of many different races, ethnic groups, meeting on the arena of Trinidad. That's when you hear about, for example, the stick fighting contests that went on throughout the 19th century into the 20th century. But the stick fight was accompanied by drumming, chanting, call and response, litanic type songs. And these songs have formed the basis of the Calypso, particularly the road march type Calypso, where you still have that call and response structure. You hear the feet of the people tapping and moving and shuffling, chipping to the music. See, fighting music was not narrative music. It was really music to inspire the fighters to fight. There are other forms that fed into what eventually became known as the Calypso. Now, the bel air was a different sort of form. It was a poetic form. It was a French verse form. But it was taken over by the Afro-Trinidadians, and the rhythm of the bel air was initially, I think, the rhythm of the minuet. But Afro-Trinidadians put that to drums. The bel air became one of the root forms that contributed to the narrative type Calypso. If you study the music of Trinidad, the most data that you are likely to gather would come from studying the emergence of the Trinidad Carnival.